ng-poznan. My name is Asha, and you probably know me already. I'm from Brisk.co, a software house where we develop our front-end mostly in AngularJS. And I'm here to welcome you and to tell you that I'm very happy that you're all here, and I'm extremely happy because of one more reason. There's also a Meet.js meeting today. So a couple of weeks ago, when I saw that the meetings are going to be at the same day and even the same hour, I almost panicked. But it turned out that it is possible to have two front-end meetings in one day, so you can attend both of them. And it's because the cooperation with Meet.js organizers, and I'm very thankful for that. So we can explore AngularJS, and then if you want to go to Meet.js meeting, it's possible, and I promise you that you will not be late for that. So without further ado, let me present to you the first speaker of today's meeting. Today we are going to focus mostly on AngularJS 1.3 and then on the version 2.0, and then we will have a short discussion about it. So the first person who is going to present to you the features of AngularJS 1.3 is Michał Miszczyczyn, who came here from Gdańsk exclusively for you.
Great. Hello, everybody. Just a simple note before we start. If I start talking too fast or you can't understand anything, please feel free to interrupt during the presentation. You can ask questions during the presentation too. So let's go. I know that nobody really likes changes, but Angular 1.3 brings really many cool features. So what I'm going to do today is to talk about changes, but first, who am I? I'm Michał Miszczyczyn. I work as a JavaScript developer at the Code. It's a small Polish-Norwegian company in Gdańsk. I focus mostly on AngularJS. Here's my Twitter and my email. If you have any questions after the presentation, you can just ping me there. So today's presentation is going to be about AngularJS roadmap, 1.30 breaking changes, performance improvements, and obviously new features that came already. But the motto for today is let's not talk about changelog, let's talk about changes. I want to present code from AngularJS 1.2 and compare it to code from 1.3 to show how things are going to get easier with the new version. So let's start with the breaking changes, because it might be quite important for many already working applications. First of all, there is no IE8 support anymore. It might not break the very first second update, but there are many internal parts of code in Angular that rely on functions that are not in IE8 anymore. So, moreover, tests for Angular are not run on IE8. Therefore, we have smaller code base, less hacks, it's faster. Another breaking change is policy values. Before, some strings in Angular were treated as falsy, like f or 0 false in a string. These all were treated as falsy. Also, empty array used to be falsy in AngularJS, but in 1.3 this is no longer the case. Now, only JavaScript falsy values are treated as falsy. So, what it means is that before this version, this code would display nothing in our template because the string says no, and Angular used to treat no as falsy value. But have anyone ever relied on this feature? Have you ever done it? Have you ever set your string to no or to false and expected the application not to display anything? Anybody? Well, I thought so. So we did not rely on that either in our application, but we did rely on something else. We did rely on the empty arrays. It's not so natural to JavaScript programmers because obviously empty arrays are a true thing in JavaScript, but for some reason it feels so natural that if you have an empty array and you test for it, this should display nothing. But in 1.3 you have to test for the length property. What is removed too? Replace directive, there are going to. This is because it was really hard to implement. The code base was huge. There are many tags to implement the replace directive. It was very hard to decide how to merge attributes between the directive element and the template element. So they just removed it. And what's more important, because I8 is no longer supported, all browsers support custom elements, so there is no problem with custom directives anymore. Stateless filters. All filters are now stateless, but by default. It used to be impossible in Android 1.2, so now filter won't update injected data changes. It's a huge performance gain because they are using caching now, and you can still override it, just set filter statement equals true. But it's really, really rare case when you really need. So these are the only breaking changes. Not so hard to upgrade existing applications to new versions. So let's start with cool parts of new Angular, like performance improvements. So Angular created this tool, bench press. I need a sip of water. Excuse me. Okay, I'm fine. So bench press is a macro benchmarking tool, which is used to, what they say, test performance of real web applications. So they claim it can be used differently than other tools. I don't really understand how and why they created that, but anyway, it mentions garbage collector too, so that's a cool feature that you can't probably find easily in other tools. So that's one feature. It's open source on GitHub by the Angular team, obviously. So if you compare Angular, the previous version, to the newest version, you get four times faster DOM manipulations and 73% less garbage collected. And digest is now 3.5 times faster than it used to be. It's really a huge change. So my main point here is that you should not worry about Angular's overhead anymore. If your code is doing something stupid, then your application is going to be slow. But Angular is less of a problem than it used to be. So, but it's not all that you can do to improve performance. Angular 1.3 adds this so-called production node. Because in normal code, there is a lot of debug information everywhere. There are like classes and data information all over the DOM. Some tools like Protractor use it they just need it to run tests or something, but you don't really need it in production, right? So there's one simple code that there's one simple function that is called, and you disable the debug information. It won't automatically make your application faster, but it might help. So there is even 44% gain in performance if you just do that. It's really, really worth it. Another thing that can be really useful. HTTP provider has this method use apply async. So you can turn on by calling that. And in the previous version, every result request was followed by a digest. But now we can configure it that if many responses coming, then only one database will be called. This is also a huge performance gain, and you can actually use this code in your own directives or in your own services. There is a root scope apply async too. It queues up multiple apply calls within about 10 milliseconds. It depends on the browser, and then calls apply only once. For example, if you are using WebSockets instead of HTTP, this might be useful for you. So these were the boring performance internal code related facts that I had to present. It's good to know all the internals, but I want to show you some real cool stuff. So first of all, coming with Angular 1.3 material design. It's a style guide from Google. They say it's a design language, but basically it's a style guide. There is also Angular material design. It's a set of lightweight UI elements that you can use in your applications, and it requires Angular 1.3. Why should you use it? Why should you bother? Because it's super accessible. It takes care of all the area attributes. It allows keyboard navigation all over your application. So if you care about your users and if you care about user experience, you might give it a try instead of Bootstrap or something. It's also really, really responsive. It's not like the most applications that we create. It's very responsive. I mean, there are some features that like you just need to write one simple attribute on an element, and then it turns a sidebar menu into a off-screen menu automatically when the screen is not big enough. This is really easy. And it gives really cool feedback for Touch. I recorded a short video for you. You can see it right there. Not only for Touch, but for Touch, it's super useful for Touch, right? Because then you can see where exactly you have touched or clicked the button. And this feedback is very intuitive. User experience is really, really good in material design. It's super easy to use. Like I said, these are just ready elements, ready attributes that you can use. It takes care of everything. It's built with Flexbox, so there might be some browser compatibility problems, but if we are not supporting i8 anymore, then not so much really. And integration with ING framework is coming soon. But to make it clear, this is not only for mobile applications, it's also for desktop applications. If you worry about that all your applications will look the same, there is theming coming soon too, so not to worry. And you can find out about this URL. What's more, ng area. So this is the new mode that takes care of accessibility for it. So it adds all the area attributes it can add. You just inject this module into your application, and it takes care of some things for you. Like it can add area check, disable hidden in advance for you. So just by injecting this module, this kind of code becomes this. So automatically, it's more accessible for people. And this CheckDI is a small module that you can use it to detect when annotations are not done as they should be. So how many times have you written this instead of this in your code? Angular.js requires that you write names of things you want to inject twice because of minification, and either you have to use some kind of plugin that converts the first form to the second form automatically for you, but maybe like we do, you don't use it in plugin. So then you have to build the application and hand these flags down manually. So now you can use this button. You can just add it to the element that you have ng app on it, and it will notify about all the problems. Use on functions without annotations. That's as simple as that. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not compatible with Bufferin, so no debug with Chrome. But I hope that support is coming soon. Watch group, small function that really is just a watch, but it takes an array as the first argument, so we can watch many properties at the same time, and if any of them changes, the callback is called, as simple as that. So it's quite better than the performance stuff, but still not as exciting as it could be. So let's talk about forms. Forms in Angular always were kind of cool, right? But some things were missing so far. So for example, ng-model options is a new directive added in Angular 1.3 that the use case. So let's talk about use case first. What we want to do is to update the model value after user focuses out of the input or a given time after the last keystroke. It's quite a common use case because, for example, imagine you have a huge list of items or contacts, for example, and you want to filter it. But you can't do it after each keystroke because then its application starts lagging because it's really huge list. So you want to filter it after, you want to debounce the filtering of the list after the last keystroke, or you want to filter after the blur. So now we can. This is how let's talk about the focusing out first. So this is how this code could have looked in Angular 1.2. Use the ng-blur directive. You said use some kind of temporary value 1, and after the blur, you just set the value 1 to the value 1 final and use it all over the application. You could do this like this. You could have created your own directive, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it wasn't really bad, but in Angular 1.3 it's better. So you use this ng-model options tab, and you set this option to update on blur, and that's all. That's all you have to do. You use only one value, no temporary variable here. It's really what it is, timer 2. In Angular 1.2, it's even more complicated. You have to call a function or create your own directive. All call a function controller. Then the controller code. It's pretty big. It's too big for this kind of feature, right? You cancel the timer. You set the value final to the value. Use temporary variable again, and you got the value, and you put the timer, and you set new timeout, etc., etc. So this is too complicated for such a simple feature. It's really a common use case. So in Angular 1.3, this is simple. It makes your HTML a little bit longer, but you have no JavaScript code at all. So you use ng-model options. You set update on default on blur. The default option is like it would have changed. It is the situation when the model would have updated if there was no ng-model options. So, for example, a key press or something. And debounce, there's option debounce, and you set the default to 1,000 milliseconds and blur to 0. So after each keystroke, it will wait for 1,000 milliseconds. If there are no more keystrokes, then it updates the model, and after blur, it will wait for 0 and update immediately. But it affects also the set value. So if you are creating your own directives or your own services, ng-model options will affect the set value calls too. So the bounce will take effect on this bit. But pending changes can be cancelled with the rollback view value. So we have to, if the element has ng options on it, ng-model options on it, you have to rollback view value to be sure that the value will be updated to what you want to be updated. That some kind of debounce change is waiting in the queue, and then you update, and then the debounce change comes. So for validation, there's four async variables ahead. So let's start with simple HTML attributes, because now all of them are properly bound to the Angular. No need for ng-pattern, ng-min length, ng-max length, etc. You can just use, this was code in Angular 1.2, ng-min length, ng-max length, etc. Now we have only this in length, max length, and pattern. But also it might behave differently across the browsers, because in this case, some browsers will not allow any text longer than 13 characters, and the second option will only show the Android. No browser interaction here. Another cool feature that was added especially for the forms validation is ng-messages directive. It's a new directive created to display validation messages, right? It makes your HTML code cleaner. So you might have this code somewhere in your application, so that each div is a message for different error, and then you have to check for this object every time from input error if it has this field required min length or pattern set to something true thing. This is another case. You can all do this like this way. You just wrap the whole validation message into a new element. You set ng-messages on it to the object, and then use ng-message directly to check for fields. This makes code cleaner and shorter, but moreover, this ng-message is multiple, so we can now force Android to show all the errors at once. It used to be impossible in 1.2. Even though they say it's impossible during the presentations, I couldn't reproduce this behavior in the newest version and in the older versions. I don't know why. So this works. And there is this ng-message include, so you can include reusable templates for errors. It was possible before with ng-include and ng-if, but then you have to scratch your head every time you see ng-include mixed with ng-if. Why the hell it's here? Now ng-message includes, it's clear, yes, and why it's here. Let's go to the custom validator. This is pretty exciting, right? In Angular 1.2, there were these two pipelines, parsers and formatters. So we had to push validator function to these pipelines, and then we had to call set validity manually to update the validity of any input field. In 1.3, there is a separate pipeline for that. So how? You just create your custom directive like you used to, but you have a function on an object. There is a new object validators. So here is the code. This is linking function, injecting ng-controller. We create a custom validator that says either invalid or valid free on the element, and then we take the value, we compare it to free, and if the element is true, then it's valid. If not, that's invalid. It's really simple. You can add any function here. Angular now takes care of all set validity calls, so this is very simple. But what's even more exciting is the async validators. It's really a long-awaited feature. There are a lot of modules implementing that. Some of them are doing this well, some of them don't. But now it's internal, so it's just as easy as normal validators. How? You just add a function running a promise to the pipeline. It's very, very simple. It's very similar. So making function, you use the async validators this time, and you return promise. If the promise is resolved, then the value is treated as if it wasn't valid, and if it's rejected, then it's invalid. Okay, but in the meantime, because the async validator might take some time, so in the meanwhile, there is a pending property on the controller. So you can use it to show some kind of indicator, like a spinner or something, to the user. And also what is important, all async validators are called after sync validators. So this is because often async validators make external calls to the API to validate some things. And if you want to avoid this extensive API usage, then this is the reason. There's also new touch property. These are the text to dirty and pristine. It is true after you just click on an input and then blur. Dirty is true, but touched is now dirty is false, but now touched is true. So you can display errors after blue. We had to simulate this in Angular 1.1 and 1.2 very many times because in our application that I'm working on, all errors are supposed to show after user focuses out of an input. So this really makes me happy. There is improved SVG support. You can now enter repeat inside of SVG. You can create your own SVG directives using this template namespace SVG. Improved ng source support. So this in your 2 might have been invalid call to the invalid resource if ID was empty. But now it won't happen anymore. If any of the parts of the expression is empty, Angular 1.3 won't update the attribute. So it's fixed in ng source, and recurve, and ng source set. Improved animations, so you can now add animated children to the elements so that all children are animated too. Added staggering animations, meaningful transitions, which is work in progress. But it's a topic for another presentation. This is quite huge. And it's 1.3, just something that came along with this release. And last thing, it's certainly not least. This is probably something that you've been waiting for. It's really, really fascinating, right? One-time bindings. So you've heard about it already many, many times. So there's new syntax introduced in Angular 1.3. Expressions that start with double colon are now one-time expressions, and they'll not be updated after they are undefined. So for the first time, its value gets undefined. The watch is removed. So it's really good for performance because all the watches are in either, and it can be used anywhere, like as a string or as an attribute. But some people are thinking, should it be possible to do? Isn't it? Because Angular's creators added this double column new one-time binding, then they must have probably introduced some kind of easy way to manipulate with syntaxes. Well, now it is. You can create your own syntaxes for expressions. So Angular 1.3 introduces $watch delegate, which is a public but not really public property returned by the parse function. So if you decorate this function, it's pretty straightforward to do so. It's quite complicated, really. You have to know a lot of internal stuff. It was only 69 lines of code. That is, you have to know a lot of Angular internal things. So, but there are 2 modules in GitHub already. One of them, I find it really interesting, is Angular watch when. 2 words, bind sometimes. It watches on one model and then updates the other when the first one is changed. This is pretty weird, right? And Angular watch require, which reuses watch from identical expression. This is improved performance, actually. So we have 3 versions of it. You can use the first one, which is take watch from the same scope or create a new one. The second one is take watch from this scope or from parent. And the third one is take watch from this scope or from parent or create a new one. And this improves performance because the same watch is reused. And if you use it together with the previous directive, Angular watch sometimes, then you have pretty huge performance. Then you can update some values sometimes without performance loss. So these were our first expressions when we first saw it at work. But yeah, it's really fascinating. Lots of possibilities. Angular is more flexible than ever. So the outro. I just want to sum up things quickly. No I8 support. Huge performance improvement. Better accessibility for ng material design coming. ng model options with all these cool forms-related things. Boosted forms by lasers, I think too. Improved SVG. Animations on steroids, which is work in progress, but it's really, really promising. There's a presentation on that on YouTube, so you should totally watch it. On adult content binding. There is one more thing I want to talk about. Some people are discussing this a lot on the internet. I'm going to just 2.0. I hope this next thing covers it more. But I just want to add that you don't have to worry about this. Because Angular 1.3 will be supported for 2 more years after the release of the 2.0. So it might be in 3 years, maybe longer. And 1.3 branch has fallen because the guy who was working on it is not working on it anymore. It's focusing, it's devoted, he's devoted on 2.0. And now we have the new guy who is devoted to work on 1.3 instead, Peter Bacon Baby. So, and there will be some kind of migration guide because that's what the guy said. But it will be hard, for sure. So 1.3 is awesome, really. And you should agree today. So time, code of these examples, not sure shows the ideas available on my GitHub. And you can ping me later if you have any questions. So thank you very much.
Do you have any questions according to this presentation? Any hands in the air? No. Then we will have a 1 minute, 2 minute break so the second speaker can plug his computer in, and we are continuing with Angular JS 2.0. Okay, in a couple of seconds, we are going to continue with the second presentation, so please take your seats again. There are still some seats not taken in the front of the room, so you don't have to stand there. And I promise that at our next meeting, I will remember to give a special place for our jackets, so they don't hang there. So there will be more place in the back of the room to sit and enjoy the presentation. And now let me present to you the second speaker. Kamil will be talking about AngularJS 2.0. So a very hot topic lately. I hope you are going to enjoy the presentation and find something useful for you. And I hope that it will be a good starting point for the discussion.
Thank you, Joanna. My name is Kamil. I'm from Brisk. We develop in AngularJS. Recently, the Angular 2.0 is very high in discussion. This is something that will happen in some time, will completely change the concepts of Angular. I first heard about the concepts on watching ng Europe's keynote on Angular 2.0, and each time there was a bell ring that was saying that another feature from Angular 1.3 has died. I was, what the hell? I was a bit scared, there was some kind of panic. After some while, I rested. Then a thought came out that I should understand why they are doing that. What is the reason for that? So now I think you should don't panic. Angular 2.0 is not yet finished, and you have to contribute to ideas. The main goal of my presentation is not to present you the whole structure of Angular 2.0, but show you what are the discussions now and in what places you can be involved in the process of creating Angular 2.0, which should be the best tool for you as a front-end developers. So first of all, my colleague before me said the time schedule for Angular 1.x. 1.3 it can be not, probably it won't be the last one from the branch 1.x. Probably there will be some porting on 1.4 during the next year. The Angular 2.0 will be at the beginning of 2016. So you will have at least after that 18 to 24 months to prepare the migration. And so that's a lot of time, and it's around years, right? Angular till the branch 1.x won't be supported. So the thing is that when I heard about it, okay, they are dropping 1.3 at a certain time. So I mean, what we will do afterwards. And some guys from the Angular team presented on ng Europe that said that we are they have at Google around 1,600 applications internally using Angular version 1.x. So they will need a tool to migrate it to 2.0. They won't leave it. So we're not alone in this. So we're not stuck with the old framework and just left alone. We will have some kind of help with the migration, but as I told, version 2.0 is a work in progress, so they don't want to start a strategy for migration before they won't fix of 2.0. So the first step, probably the next year, will be finishing those features, and then they will try to think a way how to migrate it, how to migrate the 1.x branch to 2.0. So in my opinion, it's not a step back, it's an evolution step. In some frameworks, there is a moment when you reach the limits. Angular, when it was firstly designed in 2009, it was only a framework for designers who were creating just HTML forms. There were some directives at that moment, but only hard-coded. At some point, they added some custom an interface for custom directives. Afterwards, they decided to add controllers. So each time they added new features, it was based on the core idea of a framework for forms. So now they are rebuilding the whole idea on the concept that there will be something, the core feature is a directive, not a form. This is something that will influence the performance, will prepare for the next step in web in web development. It's ECMA 6, the standard that is nearly finished. There are web components, which I will describe in details on the next slide. So they are things that are nearly there, nearly finished, that Angular is preparing. So it will be a framework not to fit the needs of today, but it will fit the needs of tomorrow. Especially, they are also focusing on mobile. What does it mean? There are a lot of scenarios, case studies, showing how an application should behave in Angular, especially with caching views, which is an issue on version on 1.3. You're not able to easily cache views on your mobile application to see, for example, to browse your application without internet connection. And one of the goals for the application, for the framework, is to make it easier for the IDE creators to make the environment easier for developers to write, to refactor, and to debug the code. Okay, so what are the web components? This is something that combines four specifications for web for the web development. First is to create custom elements, to be able to create your own custom elements in the structure. Then HTML imports, so you would be able to import CSS, JavaScript, HTML, and pack it in one place. So there won't be issues with the CSS overlapping your current styles. Templates, so you're able to fit the templates to the assign the templates to those components, and Shadow DOM, which encapsulates your element. This is more the part where you hide your styles from other elements of your code. Okay, so this is the list that was shown on ng Europe as the list what will be killed in version 2.0. There are controllers, the directive definition, object scope, Angular module, and JQLite. They told that it will be killed, but it's not that these concepts will be gone. They were the ideas from those concepts will spread in a different way on the framework. So if you know how the directives are made and how you apply the logic in a controller for a specific element, it will be there in version 2.0. As for Angular module, they are sticking more to the module definition that is in ECMA 6. That wasn't previously available when they started to create the module structure for Angular 1.x and previous versions. The scope, this is something, if you use it in your daily Angular project, this is one of the things you should avoid or try to avoid in your projects. Because it will be easier to migrate to version 2.0 using, for example, this pointer instead of scope. The directive definition object, this is a hell of a mess structure, how to define the directive. It will be much more cleaner, as you will see in an example in a moment. For the JQLite, this will be removed from the core framework, but you will be able to use it if you want as any other additional framework. So yeah, I started a bit about the preparation, for example, about the scope and so on, but the thing is that this is the table showing how many browsers are, how the new browsers are compatible with the ECMA 6 standard. So there's some browsers that are really ahead of others, for example, Firefox, with the implementation of ECMA 6 standard. And probably the next year we will have a browser that will implement the whole idea, whole concepts of ECMA 6 standard. So they will be ready probably next year for that. And when the Angular will be there, we will be able to use all these new features as well. So the first thing that is changing in Angular 2.0 is the way they will write the code for Angular 2.0. Now it was easy to write it in Java. You were able to contribute in JavaScript. So now it will be using AddScript. It's a superset of ECMA 6 standard, using TypeScript as, you could say, using TypeScript as a relationship for the types, but adding very useful in this situation, very useful thing like metadata annotations. It is backward compatible, so it can be compiled to JavaScript. And the thing is, I was very curious why they implement AddScript, the Angular in AddScript. I think the main reason is because now you have two types of Angular, one that is written in JavaScript, one that is in Dart. There are two teams separated to develop both of these versions of Angular, and with Tracer, they were able to compile AddScript both to JavaScript and to Dart. So I think that was the main reason. You should be using AddScript, not. If you don't want to use the AddScript in your daily implementation, you don't have to. This is the only thing you need to, the only place you need to use AddScript is if you want to contribute to Angular repository. So this is an example of AddScript. compiled to ECMA6. ECMA6 is on your right, script on your left. This is a class-based language, so you have class definitions of a, for example, component, where you have the type specified here as well in the constructor function, and this is a metadata annotation that says that my component is a component with a selector foo, with a constructor that has a server type as the input. The type definitions in this case are needed to specify, to assert the types during your when you are testing if the application is right, and for the framework to know what components are in which type. It's too far. Here is the place where you are checking the assertion of the parameters that are applied to my components, if they are the right type. So basically, the add script compiles this thing to this, adding annotations, the assertions, and specifying the dependency injections that are used in this code. The one important thing is this library that is also added. This is responsible for the runtime syntax check. Okay, now the directives. The idea is to create 3 types of directives. The first is the component directive, that is an overall superset of every kind of directive you are able to write. The decoration directive, like ng-show, you are just manipulating the existing elements. Template directive, just for deciding which template you are using. And the code is, this is a component directive with a selector, a CSS selector. There can be elements, HTML elements in other cases. This is the selector is something that when you are when the compiler will search the selector, then it will add by this selector the whole logic to it. The part directives tells us about the dependencies that are applied here. There is an important feature that dependency injection is also it's not the global thing. It's per each component you have a child injection that can that will know about the structure of the injections above it, or from the parent components and so on. So this is the place where you have the connections between each components presented explicitly. Here, yeah, we have just a constructor that creates the element and some methods that are responsible for manipulating the elements for the component. So basically, they are instead of creating the directive as we had previously with DDO, we have classes that are creating the whole directive, and everything will be in classes. So it's more flexible and more consistent when you are using the same structure for each component of the application. Okay, so they told you the controller is dead, but it's not. You can one thing you can do to create a controller is just to create a directive without explicitly saying that you have a selector, you have some other that is connected to a fixed template. You have just a component that will be added as a controller with the functionalities that you can use from this component. It's just you could say a change of the syntax, yeah? The templates. This is something that is very much discussed nowadays. There is an issue on Angular 2.0. It's number 133. Over 50 people are discussing how the syntax should be in the future. This is a proposition which was decided on majority voting on the Angular team. If you have any reasons why it's bad, or do you have any propositions how to change it, they will gladly hear about it. The core three things here are the binding syntax, the string interpolation, and event handler. The thing is that each web component can have attributes, and without those brackets, you are not able to know what from the developer perspective. You don't know what attribute is supposed to work as an event handler or as a string interpolator without those brackets. So if you have just clear syntax, just a name of the attribute, it's not easy to know which is which. And this is for debugging as a developer, but also for the compiler to know what features to apply to what attribute. Okay, so I know it doesn't look nice, and this, when you are looking at those brackets, you are thinking this is a whole lot. This is a lot of work to refactor the code. Yeah, but this is probably right. But having in mind web components and the future of web, this will be done in some moment of building your and maintaining your application. Okay, so the next thing is the router. Besides the standard capabilities of the router that were available already, there are two main features that I want to stress out. Child routers for each component. This is something that I was telling about the child injections for the dependency injection. This is the concept. The concept is based on that, that you are able to create routes with a separate encapsulation. So you are able to add for each component specific routes. And the next really cool feature is screen activation. When you are, there are cases when you are when you want to decide if you can move from a state to another based on some actions in the current state. So this is the API for doing that. You can add a promise or just an expression that is checking if you are able to move from state A to state B. So you can activate, can deactivate, activate, or deactivate. This is the API for handling this issue. So when you are opening, for example, the first state, the second, the third, the fourth, and you want to by doing something on the fourth, you will be destroying the whole structure of the state, and one of the state is in pending state. There's a call for the to the server that didn't respond. You will be able to handle it and know in the actions in the fourth state that something is still pending and you're not able to move from that state. So yeah, many of you probably know this chart. This is the curve that says how you learning curve for AngularJS, and yeah, this is not the end. I don't know how far we will drop here after Angular 2.0 will arrive. The nice thing is that they are already saying that it will be a problem to migrate. It will be a lot of things you need to know about the structure. You have the time to learn about it and to prepare for that. Okay, and this is, in my opinion, the most important slide in this presentation, because you can be involved in the discussion. I mentioned the syntax discussion on Angular repository. This is one place to search for information and to get involved. Second thing, they have each week notes how they are creating and discussing next features in Angular. There is a whole repository, a whole Google, not repository, folder with the research on which they base the structure of Angular 2.0. There is a whole lot of documents. I nearly dig into a few, just the main things. In each you can discuss features you want in Angular 2.0, and if there is something that will break things you like or you love in Angular 1.x, you should tell them that it's important for you. For example, they are thinking of dropping out a two-way binding. In the syntax I presented in the HTML example, in the template example, there isn't this thing. You're not able to see the difference between single and two-way binding there, because the syntax doesn't exist now, and there is a heavy discussion on that. I really like the two-way binding idea with refreshing the models on both sides of the components. So if you agree, try to get involved in the discussion. Yeah, and there are a few guys I mentioned at the bottom. These are core Angular developers. You can reach them through Twitter or their blogs and so on. If you have an idea how to improve the Angular, there's a whole year to do that. You have the project is so transparent, and you are able to see it from the code basis. That is what I want to share with you. You are able to change it, so it will be the best framework ever. So thank you. That's all from my side. If you have any questions. Yeah?
Are there any plans in Angular 2.0 to introduce server-side rendering or something like that?
Server-side what?
Rendering.
Rendering.
Yeah.
If you, what is the problem with server-side? If you are thinking about CEO?
No, if Angular 2.0 is an plan to introduce it.
There is a discussion. I found a discussion about it. But the main thing for server-side compilation is mainly about, I think the problem was with the CEO, and I heard that Google is preparing their crawlers to be able to crawl also dynamic pages at the beginning of this year, the next year.
Yeah, but it's
not
all about crawling, it's about...
But if you have a point, because this was the major problem for most of the people that were to use it, yeah? So if you have another point in discussion, just shoot to them. Anyone else? Okay.
Well, I can add that I think that's really arguable right now is the template syntax. For example, if you use Jade or Slim or Count or any other generator of HTML, then that syntax which Angular showed in 2.0 is not going to work. All these parentheses and all this stuff. And I think this is the thing that people are most annoyed about. And there's an issue on GitHub about that template syntax. You can Google it for Angular 2.0 template syntax. And they want to also make an alternative version of this syntax. So for example, instead of making the parentheses, you will add a prefix. For example, bin something.
Yeah, there's. I mentioned that if I will post the presentation afterwards. There's a link to this discussion, and there's also to the design docs where you are able to find the reasons why they are doing it like that, or what were the propositions for other syntaxes. There's called Google Sheet with that explained, because there are some restrictions for the web components, for example, how they are able to add attributes to each component. So yeah, this is a kind of discussion that is now in progress.
Yeah, it has about 200 posts on this one issue, and they still not decided. So it's working on.
Anyone else? Okay. So thank you once again.
Now, I think that our meeting, or especially the presentation part, is over. You can feel released. We are going to make it to Meet.js if you are heading there. If you're not, and you cannot handle any JS this evening, you're very welcome to stay here and grab a beer. But my main point was to make it possible for you to be both on our AngularJS meeting and then at the other meeting, because we are going to have a long JS evening this evening. So thank you very much. You're welcome to stay here. But I can announce the 6th ng-poznan closed. Thanks.